of 2021. The overwhelming retaliation and pushback got so bad, I sent an email to Miss Willis, and I told her that I had followed the chain of command to no avail, and I really needed to speak with her. At this time, I believed that she had no idea what was going on, and I wanted to make her aware of what I saw to be a potentially illegal and dangerous situation, and I didn't want there to be any scandal related to her administration.
You sent that directly to her?
I did.
Did she reply?
She did not.
Okay.
But I believe 2 or 3 days later, Mr. Cuffey approached me and said that he knew that I reached out to her and that no matter what I did, that she was just going to come back to him. And so at that point, I didn't really know who to go to or what to do, because when I attempted to make her aware of what I saw to be a illegal situation, it was told directly to the person that was doing what I saw to be illegal.
Mr. Cuffey?
Mr. Cuffey,
Okay.
Correct.
Did you complain to anybody else other than Mr. Cuffey in your email to Fani Willis?
Not in my initial email. Things started to progress as far as my retaliation. It was almost daily that it was something. If it wasn't something, it was, something else. Eventually, the junior DA program started to near, and he started saying that he was going to be buying Apple products with the junior DA funds.
Apple products like Apple iPhones or computers?
Computers.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but he just really wanted these Apple computers. So I let him know that we couldn't do that with the junior DA funds either. And so he took me off directing the junior DA program and put other people in my place. And then eventually, when junior DA started in June of 2021, I noticed that there were youth in the program that were not Fulton County residents, weren't even residents of the state of Georgia. There were youth in the program from Florida, from Wisconsin. And so, of course, I questioned it. I felt like, our youth in Fulton County have so much need. Why are we not focusing on the youth in our county, especially when the grant and the grant application or the application to the program specifically say that must be Fulton County residents, must attend Fulton County or Atlanta Public Schools. So when I brought that to him,
We're still talking about Mr. Cuffey.
Mr. Cuffey, excuse me, sorry. So when I brought that to Mr. Cuffey, the next day I was told that we needed to have a meeting, and he attempted to put me on some type of a plan, like a professional development plan. I've never been written up, never had any warnings, so I
was wondering if you have a history of being a troublemaker in the workplace.
I do not. And in the evidence that I gave you, I also included 24 letters of recommendation from everybody that I've worked for in the past 12 years, including everybody here in Atlanta that I've ever worked for, saying the exact opposite of what's been stated of me. However, he tried to put me on some plan, but the plan was like a personal attack on me. It talked about my appearance, and it was just not a professional. So I escalated my concerns to HR.
Human Resources.
Human Resources, excuse me. So the HR personnel in the DA's office, her name is Kyra Banks. I reached out to her on July 7th of 2021. And we met on July 20th. And I basically told her all of my concerns, and she said she took notes and told me that she would escalate my matter. On July 23rd.
Escalate, in your view, means take it up the ladder to
Yes.
a higher somebody above Mr. Cuffey.
Absolutely.
Okay.
On July 23rd, there was additional retaliation, and I reached, it was just so much. I was extremely anxious, even coming to work, because I just didn't know from day to day what type of retaliation I would receive. On on July 26th, I reached out to Dexter Bond, who is the chief of staff in the DA's office.
Staff to Ms. Willis?
Yes.
Okay.
And I reached out to Dexter because we worked in the previous administration together. He knew my work ethic, and I just felt like I needed somebody in the office to understand and know what was going on. And
What was his role with Paul Howard?
He, under Paul, I think he wasn't chief of staff. I think he was I can't remember his exact role if I'm being honest, but he was a
Administrative
high up
position?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's an attorney as well.
He had worked in higher levels of administration for DA Paul Howard as well.
Yes,
before.
and I believe he worked with Paul Howard for like 7 years, so he...
Okay. So you reached out to him
Yes.
directly. All right, tell us about that.
And I told him there were youth in the junior DA program from out of the area. I told him how he treated me. I told him about the PDP. I told him about the OJJDP funds, and I sent him a copy of the PDP, and I told him specifically in a text. Well, I spoke to him in person, and then I sent him a picture of this professional development plan, and I said to him specifically that at this point in time, like, he's putting you guys in a situation where I have multiple potential lawsuits because of how he's treating me, and I said I need to speak with Ms. Willis because I don't believe she knows. That was, I believe, at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then about he responded back to the PDP by saying, wow, period, this is a problem, period. And then text me saying, you have a meeting with the DA at 3 p.m.
This is in July of 21 sometime.
Yes, this is July 26th of 2021.
Right.
And so immediately, you know, I felt like a weight was lifted. Finally, I'll get to let her know because I felt like I was trying to, in part, protect her, protect the youth of Fulton County, and just protect the integrity of these grants. And so ultimately, at 3 p.m., I went to Ms. Willis's office. Judging by Dexter was in this meeting, I could tell that she was already kind of briefed. And I went to, she said something to the effect of, now what's going on? So I went to speak and tell her, I said, I'm concerned about the way the grants, and I think I said something else, and she cut me right off in the middle of my sentence and said, effective immediately, you're going to be moved, and demoted me to the role of file clerk. So immediately,
You went from a department head to a file clerk.
Correct, a program head. So I went from the director of juvenile diversion to a file clerk, which changed not only the function of my job, it changed my schedule, it changed my location, it changed, I mean, this is frivolous, but I was taken off the website. I was essentially like banished for what I saw to be protecting her at the time.
Did she say why you were being demoted?
No, not at that time. The meeting lasted maybe 2 to 5 minutes because she cut me off immediately and told me I was demoted. So I was kind of left flabbergasted, and I reached back to her that evening via email just to get some clarity, and that was the first time I ever heard that she was saying that she wasn't pleased with my work. And it's important to note, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, I feel like we're already there, but it's important to note that 3 weeks prior to this, she had just asked me to assist in another department. So 3 weeks before, she wasn't dissatisfied with my work. So it was shocking to me that suddenly she was dissatisfied with my work the day that I disclosed that I was concerned about the way these funds were being spent.
You have mentioned several times about retaliation. What type of conduct or actions were aimed towards you that you felt were retaliation? This demotion's pretty clear cut, but
Yeah.
were you being treated differently by Mr. Cuffey or Mr. Bond or any other supervisory type employees?
Yes. Treatment as far as, like I said, being disinvited to meetings, just the attitude of when I would ask for things or ask for additional like guidance or feedback, it wouldn't happen. I also, in addition to, I sent him an email because he was essentially stifling my work. I was completing tasks that Ms. Willis had asked me in previous meetings, and I would be asking him like, hey, did you get this to her? Hey, I've had this done. Did you look over it? I'm waiting for your feedback. And I was just essentially put on the back burner. Also, like the PDP, the demotion was the first act from Ms. Willis directly. And then after that, because of the change in my work schedule and the change in my work location, I had asked for accommodations or a different setting because they were rehabbing the building, and it was causing me some health issues because I have pre-existing condition. And I was told no, and told if I brought it up again, it would negatively impact my future evaluations, which would impact my employment. And about an hour later, my laptop was confiscated, so I couldn't work from home even if I wanted to. Sometimes I would come to work, and now as a file clerk, I would literally be putting thousands of documents into alphabetical order and then creating an Excel spreadsheet.
What department were you in as a file clerk? Were you changed to a different department or just removed as program head and kept in that same juvenile justice department?
No, I was moved to record restriction, and then ultimately I became the file clerk liaison between pre-indictment, pretrial indictment diversion for adults and the record restriction. So stuff I've never done or have any type of...
Record restriction is what us old guys used to call expungement.
Yes.
From your record. Okay, now
Yes, sir.
they restrict your record so people can't see about your prior convictions or charges against you that you've resolved through a pretrial diversion program or first offender plea, something like that.
Yes.
Okay. Totally different than what you were trained to do, your interest, your background, and your experience under Paul Howard's office.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I didn't receive any real training, so I couldn't go into certain systems. The only thing I could really do is put things in alphabetical order and put them into Excel spreadsheets, and that's what I did. And there was 2 occasions where I came to work, and the over 1,500 documents that I put in alphabetical order were now all in disarray. So things like that, to where it just made coming to work a very anxious event.
Okay. Did you ever have any further conversations with Ms. Willis where you expressed your concerns about the misuse of federal funds?
I did. So on November 19th of 2021, I had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Willis again. And because the fact that the first time I spoke with her regarding these funds, I was demoted, I decided to record her. And I think it was just because I was fearful of what type of retaliation even bringing it up would have. But also, again, like my track record with her was the last time I did this, I was demoted. And so I did have a chance to speak with her, and I told her.
Was that an in-person conversation?
It was an in-person conversation.
How did you record that conversation?
On my phone.
All right. Tell us about that conversation.
Yes, sir. I just spoke with her and told her about my concerns with the grants and how I knew that the grants were allocated for a specific purpose, and the way that Mr. Cuffey was essentially stating that he wanted to spend the grants was illegal. It was impossible under the grant. And she said that she didn't disagree with me, and she said she really wanted me to listen to the words that she was saying, that I wasn't necessarily wrong, essentially. And then she proceeded to tell me that Michael Cuffey had failed in her administration, and that everybody who does that essentially pretends to be her friend. And I just went on to say that I felt like there was some, I think I said funny style business going on, and I just wanted to ensure that she knew. And she proceeded to tell me that, things take a long time to get to her. It's a new administration. But not once did she ever say that I was wrong. Not once did she ever say that I was off base or that what I was saying was untrue at any point in our conversation. And so that was November 19th. December 7th of 2021, I wrote her an email, and I CC'd Dominique Martinez, who is, I believe, one of the county attorneys, and I just kind of told her, what I had experienced in the office, and that how my treatment had brought me a significant amount of anxiety. I thought that I was going to ultimately retire from the DA's office, and it made a place that I used to be proud of working at hell for me, essentially. I never received a letter back or any notice that she even read it. And then in January, I don't know if you want me to go that far.
Oh, you're doing great. So
Okay.
now you're up to January of 22.
Yes.
So you've been still working there for a year. You just got demoted and essentially harassed in your employment.
Yes.
And taken off of websites and cut out of meetings, et cetera. Okay.
Absolutely. And so in December 22nd of 2022, I was actually sent home due to COVID. Somebody was exposed with COVID, and they knew that I was unvaccinated, so I was sent home. And then I got sick, and when I get sick, I get really, really sick. And so I returned back to work on January 12th of 2022 with multiple doctor's letters, because that's what they asked me for.
Prove you weren't contagious with COVID or whatever.
Yes, I was actually told to quarantine for 10 days and then come back. But it was obviously during the holidays, because I was sent home on the 22nd. And then I came back on January 12th, and January 14th. On January 12th, I got my leave slip signed and all that good stuff.
We don't know what that means. What's a leave slip?
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. When you leave from work. So I produced my documents from my physician, and then they signed.
Excused absence, basically. You had your doctor's note.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it.
And then January 12th, I made my third. I kind of have to go back. January 12th, I made another request for health-related accommodation, but I also, during this time, if I could go back, December 2nd was my first official complaint with the DCRC, which is the...
Okay, we got to slow down on that. That's
Yes.
the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights Compliance?
Yes, sir.
Is that a county office?
Yes.
And y'all refer to that as the DCRC, is kind of the vernacular
Yes.
as for county employees?
Yes, sir.
When did you first complain to them?
I first complained to them December 2nd of 2021. And I made another complaint, I believe, on December 18th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And then I made my third, let me get to the January 14th. So January 14th, the January 12th email that I sent regarding my health, I CC'd one of my supervisors. At this time now, I have 3 supervisors because I'm working in multiple departments. And on the morning on January 13th, she asked me what it was about, and then January 14th, she asked me into her office just to make sure I was okay, or so I thought. So I had a discussion with her. I had a pre-arranged meeting with the director of the DCRC, Niger Thomas, at 1 p.m. on January 14th of 2022.
Okay.
Following my conversation with Miss Ramona Toole
That was
about...
the supervisor that you had talked to?
Yes, she was my supervisor. I essentially, unfortunately, told her everything. I just told her, what was going on. I told her about my health issues. I told her about the retaliation. And so following that meeting, I had my prearranged meeting with Miss Niger Thomas. I went to that meeting with Miss Niger Thomas at 1 p.m.
She is the director of the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights Compliance.
She was at the time. Now it's Melissa Cathrell, but she was at the time. And I went in there to speak with her about the whistleblowing and how ultimately the whistleblowing led to all this additional retaliation. And I was in her office for probably about 90 minutes.
The whistleblowing was bringing up the misuse of federal funds.
Correct.
Okay.
And so I was in her office for about 90 minutes. While I was in the office with her, I received to my county phone a request for a meeting request for January 18th at 2 p.m. From Miss Willis and Dexter Bond. I told Miss Niger Thomas in that meeting that I did not feel safe going into that meeting by myself. And she said that she would have a member of the Fulton County Human Resources Department accompany me to that meeting if I didn't feel safe. And I asked...
Did Ms. Willis tell you in that phone text the purpose or the reason for the January 18th meeting?
No, it was just, it just came to my email from my phone, from my county phone.
So it was an email?
Yes. And so I guess I left that meeting scared, but kind of glad that I felt somebody else was essentially like in my corner to advocate for me. Somebody would be with me at that meeting on the 18th, so I wouldn't be by myself. And I went back to my area and continued on my Excel spreadsheet that I started that morning. About 20 to 25 minutes later, there's like a knock on the side of the thing, and they said Capers Green, who was the chief investigator for under Miss Willis, he said, Miss Timpson, I got some unfortunate documentation for you. I need you to get your stuff and we're going to walk you out the building. And he handed me my termination letter. And
immediately after you meeting with the director of the Diversity and Civil Rights Compliance Division.
Yes.
You think she ratted you out or told them that you were making these complaints?
I believe that Ramona Toole, in the conversation that we had that morning, went directly to Miss Willis, and I think that it's possible that Niger Thomas said something. I cannot speak to that, but I think it's more likely that Ramona Toole, who is a good friend and ally of Miss Willis, must have went to her office and let her know that I told her what was going on. And ultimately, I was walked out of the building by 7 armed investigators and given a letter that was completely, it just says that I'm an at-will employee and that my services were no longer needed.
Didn't give a reason for your termination?
They did not include, I didn't receive a separation letter for almost 2 months because they refused to give that to me, but when they did, it just said employee discharge. So I had no understanding to this day because ultimately the PDP that Cuffey had written was, Ms. Willis did say that was null and void. He didn't follow proper channels. There was no documentation. So there was no, I have never received a warning in the almost 4 years that I was at the DA's office. In fact, the opposite. I have received praises from both Ms. Willis and Mr. Howard. My entire time at the DA's office, I've never required or received any disciplinary action on any level outside of the retaliation and ultimate termination from my job.
What are the DA's office's rules about retaliation for raising issues or whistleblowing or bringing irregularities to their attention? Does the DA's office have a personnel policy, or is it covered by Fulton County's personnel policy?
My understanding is, well, at the time that I was fired, under Miss Willis, they didn't have an employee handbook. That was something that was still being worked on, so there was no policy, so we fell under the Fulton County policy. And under Fulton County policy, it's my understanding that it's unlawful, just like it is in the state of Georgia, to retaliate against, demote, or provide any adverse employment actions against somebody who is blowing the whistle.
Okay. And after that, you're out of work.
So yes, after that, I'm out of work. As a last attempt at retaliation, the time that I had been out sick was now reported as leave without pay. That's what they classified it under. So I was for a while until I was able to correct it with Fulton County outside of the DA's office. So they took over, I think it was $4,000 of leave without pay. They kept me on as an active employee without pay, so I was unable to get any unemployment. And so just to keep, myself and my family afloat, we had to tap into my retirement. Once my complaint was actually filed, Ms. Willis made completely slanderous and libelous statements against me. So anybody that essentially Googled me for a job would ask me in interviews, what is this about? And anybody who's ever hired anybody knows that it's already a gamble. So if somebody in a position of authority is saying that this person is inadequate, they may likely believe that. So it made my life extremely hard, and my family's life extremely hard. And just, for me, I'm here today to fight for my reputation, to fight for the youth of Fulton County, but also for the truth, because, I did everything that Fulton County requires me to do to be essentially protected. I did everything that the DA's office requires you to be protected, and I wasn't every step of the way.
How many jobs did you apply to?
I to get the job that I'm at now, I applied to over 1,000 jobs just so somebody would hear me enough for me to be able to get back into a position that was even halfway comparable to what I did before. And I've been, I worked it like I was working a 9 to 5. I applied and I made sure that every single day I was intentional about what I was doing so that I could mitigate what had been done to me and make sure that me and my family were okay.
How many months were you out of work?
I think total it was 5, but then after that it was the initial job that I got was just a floater job, essentially to make sure we didn't lose our home and stuff. But it took me until September of 2023 to land a job that was comparable to what I had at the DA's office.
Okay.